Good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Menachem Creditor. It's my honor to serve as scholar in residence and rabbi for UJA Federation of New York. We bring you Torah and music, blessing, and community every weekday. We've been doing so since March 18th, 2020. Today it is Thursday, November 20th, 2023. What a blessing it has been to be part of this community every single day, every weekday for a very long time, more than 3.5 years, of finding friends from across the world who just want to say good morning, learn a little bit of Torah, share a little bit of time, bring a hug into the world like my dear friend Yisrael Campbell, who's here on Instagram with us, did. I was in Jerusalem at a very magical place, the UJ Campus for the Arts, that's now an organization helping Israelis from all over the country. And my friend Yisrael happened to be around, texted me, and I was able to receive and share a hug. It's broadcast 938. Thank you, Penny, for letting us know. And I want to say hello to everyone. It's good to see all of you. I just returned from Israel 2 hours ago, and here we are, ready to continue our work. That has to be what we do. And so I will share some reflections on the trip that I just took, and also let's learn some Torah. But first, let's say good morning. It's good to see all of you. Adrian and Barry, Carl and Shari, good morning. Hi, Linda. April and Joyce, Diane, Adrian, Boker Tov. Hi, Rose. Hi, Judy. It's good to see everyone. Patricia and Natalie, Boker Tov. Good morning. Hi, Arlene. Hi, Adrian. All right, friends, let's take a breath. Let's get right to it. Sing a blessing. Learn a little bit of Torah. Here we go. All right. Friends, I haven't even had a moment to process the trip to Israel that I literally just returned from. But let me offer my profound thanks and gratitude to the Westchester Jewish Council, especially its CEO, my dear friend and teacher, Elliot Forsheimer, for doing amazing work to bring together elected officials from Westchester. The trip was chaired by Westchester County Executive George Latimer, and on the trip were wonderful leaders. You can look us up. The news did some good coverage. But these are public servants who made it a point to represent their constituents authentically, knowing that what affects Israel so profoundly right now affects the Jewish community, doing the hard work of delineating between Hamas terrorists and Palestinians. They're not the same thing. Understanding the moral claim of Israel, the legitimate necessity of military response to Hamas's terror, standing shoulder to shoulder, heart to heart with hostages and their families, as we did just before we left. We went to the headquarters of the Hostages and Missing Families Forum in Tel Aviv, there for an international press conference where sisters of hostages held their sisters' photos up and talked about the necessity of trusting women's testimony, believing what happens to women, and calling out the absence of global feminist organizations who say Me Too and believe women unless it's an Israeli woman who's been hurt, who's been assaulted. Now, I don't want to only point to the incredibly ravaging parts of this, though that is where we are. I want to make sure that I ground us in Torah and that I offer not just gratitude, but also admiration for the courage of our elected officials and also the incredible, incredible courage and devotion of Israel's citizens to hold each other up, to do the hard work of organizing as volunteers to save lives. The entire organization, Hostages Forum, has an army of lawyers who are about to launch lawsuits because of the complicity of different organizations, including the International Red Cross, that has served as nothing more than a glorified Uber company. They haven't done enough work to access the hostages to make sure that they are safe and well, because when the hostages come back, they are malnourished at best. So I'm charged up, as you can tell, because being in the air, the holy air of Israel, even in a moment like this, fills my soul. And when we were there, I can't tell you how many overlapping solidarity missions, including beloved rabbinic colleagues and friends from all over the United States, all showing up. The rabbis from Los Angeles, Cantor's Assembly had a beautiful, beautiful gathering. The Hartman Institute had a gathering of affiliated rabbis, and we were all there knowing that we shared the intensity and grief and admiration and all of that, and knowing that we were coming back. I went to the Kotel with these elected officials, and then because we also had some very faithful Christian and Muslim colleagues, we took a really beautiful tour of the entire Old City during a 50-hour visit to the State of Israel. And I saw what could be if all partners in faith come together, believing that the responsibility is ours to build a beloved community, the way Rabbi Heschel and Dr. King both taught. And so here we are. Here we are fighting for the life of our family. Here we are grieving for Palestinian civilians. Here we are reeling from yet another terror attack in Jerusalem that took the life of 3 innocent people, 3 Jews, standing at a bus stop at the entrance to Jerusalem. 2 older people, an older woman, older man, and a young woman. There is going to be so much to say and so much work to do, but what a gift it is, friends, to do the work. I am humbled beyond what I've said before to be a representative of UJA's work in the world, knowing that we are saving lives actively daily. I hope that you'll be present in our work as much as you can, maybe even more than you already have been. And I hope that we can ground ourselves in a little bit of Torah right now. So I ask you, in the midst of all this, all these swirling, intense emotions, and trust me, I know it's coming through. The intensity of this is coursing through me. But it is such a feeling of strength to be united with our people. Am Yisrael Chai is a commitment we make and a description of this moment. We are unified like never before. Israel's different political factions are unified like never before. Will it last when, please God, we get back to peacetime? Let's deal with that then. But right now, we are one. I want to tell you just a little bit from this week's Parsha and then share a thought. We're in Parshat VaYishlach, and we've been sharing during the week that some of the elements of the Parsha deal with how Jacob and Esau, Yaakov and Esav, brothers who are alienated, to say the least, from each other, and they live in a world that sets a model as if you can only have enough love to give to one member of the next generation. Clearly not true. Clearly not true. And as new babies are born into our world, Susan, a healthy baby girl into your Israeli family, was born 4 days ago. Mazal tov. May she grow up in a strong and safe home, in our strong and safe homeland. Um, Yaakov and Esav re-encounter each other, and it is a dance, a diplomatic dance, where we're not sure if there was a sincere healing, but at the very least, they stand near each other, they talk to each other, they exchange gifts, and then Esav says something. I'm just going to read you the verse. It's chapter 33, verse 12, if you'd like to look it up yourself. Vayomer nis'a v'nelcha ve'elcha lenegdecha. Translation I have, this is the JPS translation. And Esau said, let us start on our journey, and I will proceed at your pace. Suggesting that perhaps we can now travel together. We've worked it out. We found each other again. We hugged. Let's go together. And, Sarah just wrote, a beloved community is a dream. That might be true, actually. One of the very complicating factors that we believe we are understanding now, having walked through Kibbutz Kfar Aza, a kibbutz that was massacred on October 7th. And I will need time and help, as will everyone who visited there, and certainly those who lived there and might even live there again. It's a lot to take in, and it's a lot to talk about. And I don't want to waylay us with the intensity of it, but I do have to say that walking there brought me immediately back to my times visiting the camps in Poland, and seeing rabbinic colleagues there reminded me of times that I've reunited with friends, seeing them very strangely at different parts of concentration camps and death camps in Poland. The air felt like that, the destruction all around. I won't go into depth, but it was a lot. And one of the things that's becoming clear is that the terrorists who coordinated this, planning it for years in advance, knew exactly which houses they wanted to go to, which houses were held the Nishkia, the armory. There was a man running for the head of the Eshkol Council, and they knew which house was his, and they went there first. They skipped other houses, which means that they must have had someone on the inside, and there's a good chance that these communities, the kibbutzim in the south, that actually had made incredible effort to build friendships and bridges with Palestinians in Gaza, including my dear friend Vivian Silver, who was murdered on that day, but had spent her life advocating for peace, advocating for Palestinians, and taking them physically into her home and driving them to hospitals. She was extraordinary and was one of many peacemakers who were among those massacred. It is quite possible, and we believe likely, that Palestinian workers from Gaza who were part of the community helping build, they were earning a living, coming and working on the kibbutzim, must have mapped out so many aspects of the kibbutz. And so when this verse is now read this week, we'll read it Shabbat morning, Esav says, oh, we're okay now, let's travel together. Yaakov is appropriately wary. Jacob says, well, I'm going to paraphrase, the children are frail, and we have a lot of flocks and herds. It's going to take some time. It's too hard for us. Tell you what, you go ahead, I'll follow. And of course, they don't. Esav says, oh, but let me assign to you some of the people who are with me. And Jacob said, oh, no, you're too kind. It might be that for the time being, and I'm really only speaking for myself as I say this, it might be that our focus has to entirely be on tribal survival right now. That might be. But it is also the case that even at our most loving and most charitable and most justice-seeking on behalf of our cousins, the Palestinians, we're going to have to see very clearly where we can and can't walk together. Esav says, come with me. And Jacob says, no, you go ahead. You would have thought that after Jacob loses so much in his life, including the love of his brother, that he would have jumped at the chance to be together again. But maybe he has come to a place where he understands that it's not about unity right now. It's about safe selfhoods. So I'm not making a political comment about this in a direct way, but I am saying that right now, this verse and the way Jacob handles Esau's, quote, invitation is instructive to me. Listen to a little bit of commentary. This is from the Jerusalem Talmud, Avodah Zarah, about the verse. And I would jump at this if I were reading it in any other time, but listen to the language. If a non-Jew is paired with a Jew, he puts him on his right-hand side. Rabbi Yishmael ben Rabbi Yossi says, with a sword at his right, with a staff at his left. If they climb together to an upper floor or descends to an exit, the Jew should be higher and the Gentile below. Why? He should not lie down before him, lest he smite his skull. And he should extend the way to him, that if he asks him where he goes, he should indicate a farther distance, as did our father Jacob with Esau. Rabbi Huna said, actually, the rest of that is about a different verse. The reason why I share this is not because it's the ideal. In fact, we need to actually believe in an ideal. We need to believe that one day our family can be united, that peace will be possible. Remember that Jews throughout our history, during the Crusades, during the destructions of the temples, during the Shoah, Jews have always ended our central prayer with the word shalom, with the word peace. We have to believe in peace. Peace is the greatest ideal. But remember that the word shalom includes the word shalem, which means wholeness. The only way for us to achieve shalom beyond the self is to be whole as a self, to have inner peace. I remember after 9/11, I hadn't yet even begun my friendship with Neshama, who's now my amazing, inspiring wife. But she sang a melody from her family to the verse from Psalms, Yehi shalom b'chelech, shalva b'armenotayich. Let there be peace b'chelech in your environment, in your surroundings, shalva b'armenotayich. Serenity in your most protected places. And I remember after 9/11 quoting Neshama, who said that it is so possible sometimes to really build walls and protect the self and isolate. And it's important to know that that's a place where peace is necessary too. The only way there can be shalom is if we can achieve shalva. And in this moment where there are still 140 hostages in Gaza being held by Hamas and other terrorists, we don't have shalva. The psychological warfare and physical warfare being wreaked by these really awful people who seem to have sublimated their humanity beyond what you and I can talk about in polite company. But as footage documents, and some of us will see the awful details of this as it becomes available, and as I can bear testimony, seeing the desecration of the very ground and human life at Kfar Aza, Jacob and Esau can't really be near each other in the way that family should one day be able to be. We, their descendants, have been through quite a lot. And I would only pray for shalva for Palestinians too, their inner peace, for them to be freed from the tyranny of Hamas, for them to see the building of self-sufficiency, identity, a Palestinian identity not based in hatred of Jews, which is not where we are, But I won't call Palestinians names. That's not where we are. We have to be able to see them as human, even when their leaders do not see us in that way. But because their leaders do not see us in that way, it is an incredibly important thing that we retain the the moral priority of remaining alive and taking care of our family first. I've shared this story. Um, I've shared this story many times. Sylvia, I think you mean you pray for Palestinians to be free from Hamas, or Gaza to be free from Hamas. I've shared this story many times that Elie Wiesel, the great human rights champion, survivor of the Shoah, um, was once asked when he was a professor at Boston University, Professor Wiesel, there is a march on Sunday in solidarity with Soviet Jewry. A Jewish student said to him, Professor, there's a march for solidarity with Soviet Jewry, and at the same time, there is a march against South African apartheid. Which one should I go to? And Professor Wiesel looked at his student and said, of course, both. Of course, you have to go to both. But I'll tell you why you really need to go to the march in solidarity with Soviet Jewry. If you go to the march against apartheid in South Africa, who will go to the march in solidarity with Soviet Jewry? Meaning both moral claims are true. They are both urgent, holy. And it is incredibly important for us to understand that if we do not stand for ourselves, no one really will. Right now, with a stalwart friendship from President Biden and the United States, moving carrier fleets into position to protect Israel, mobilizing the world to have more clarity than it otherwise would when it comes to this great battle. Secretary of State Blinken is on his third visit in 50 days to the state of Israel right now. What we need to do is absolutely pray for the safety of Palestinians and act for the safety of Israelis. Because after all, even though Esav says the right thing, his PR department is great, even in the Torah. Vayomer nisa v'nilcha, let's go, ve'elcha lenegdecha, and I'll follow your pace. Let me tell you what a modern commentary called Dirshuni says about this, and with this I'll close. It says, Yesh mahu chenegdo. All right, so I have to explain the question. The verse says, let's go, ve'elcha lenegdecha, and I will go lenegdecha. It could mean against you, corresponding to you, facing you. Our translation says at your pace. But listen to what this midrash says. It's a modern midrash called Yeshuni, written by Israeli women. Yesh neged shehu mul. There is the word neged, which means corresponding to, opposite. V'yesh neged shehu shaveh. And also, there is neged, which means traveling as equals together. Shenemar ve'elcha lenegdecha. And it says, and I will go neged you. I'll go equal to you. I'll go corresponding to you. Ufata Rabbeinu Shlomo Yitzchaki, and Rabbeinu Shlomo Yitzchaki made this suggestion. V'zehu lenegdecha. This is what it is to walk with you. V'shaveh lecha, to walk as an equal. Sheharei halchu yachad. They did walk together already. Shehishlimu Yaakov ve'esav kodem halichatam. They became whole again. They held each other before they started walking. Ucheit halchu zeh letzad zeh v'shaveh. And for that brief moment when they walked side by side, they were equals. And it's important to use the word equals carefully here, to really define what equality looks like when it comes to this conflict. It's not about the proportionality of response. It's about, do you see me as human? Because Tzahal, the IDF, is doing enormous work to protect the humanity, both of the Palestinians and also of their own terribly necessary work as a military response to terrorism. Just imagine if the IDF were not working hard to maintain their own humanity and save lives. Imagine if they didn't bring incubators into Gaza. Imagine if they didn't work hard to protect Palestinians who are trying to go south away from Hamas, though Hamas is not letting them go. Imagine if Israel were to break the ceasefire the way that Hamas has broken it countless times, including this morning's gun massacre in Jerusalem. Just imagine. So the only way to actually get to that place, work toward that place where one day our descendants, please God, will make real peace, is to demand to be seen as equal, is to know that the deepest way of seeing someone as human is to see God in their eyes. And the definition of terrorism is when someone does not. We are called by our ancient rabbis, b'makom she'ein anashim hishtadel liot ish. In a place where people aren't being human, be human. So that's a big, big order. It's a tall order. But what's really important to know is when I met with injured Israeli soldiers, injured in fighting in Gaza, older than typical soldiers, a 55-year-old man who went into reserves, went into Miluim, and he was shot in the leg. So he was recuperating at Hadassah Ein Kerem Hospital. And he was willing to meet with us. His grandfather, you might have seen a picture in the first days of this war, a 95-year-old fighting in full uniform, went to reserve duty. Not his grandfather, his father. So this young man, with tears in his eyes, injured in war, said, I'm not only fighting for our survival, I'm fighting for humanity. What they did on that day, said this young man, this chayal, this mensch, what they did that day was the worst of the worst. Even animals don't act the way the terrorists did to our children, to our adults, to our grandparents. They did that, but I am fighting for a world where no one does that to anyone. I don't want to hurt them. I just need to stop them. We need to fight for a world where people can be human. That was language of an Israeli soldier. Not revenge. He didn't sound at all vengeful. He sounded wounded. He sounded like a human being. And I bless the state of Israel. And I bless the Jewish people. And in this moment, having just returned from the state of Israel with a group of elected officials from Westchester who are Jewish and not. So beautiful, these people, these servant leaders. I bless them. We should all fight for the best values of humanity. To know that Abraham Lincoln was right. He once said, I don't know if God is on my side, but I definitely want to be on God's side. That sounds like a good aspiration. Our language is never hateful and never should ever be. Our language is full of hope. Our language is about survival for the sake of doing good for others in the world, of having enough inner shalva that we can build some shalom, so that one day, friends, one day the invitation to walk together will be possible. I don't think that day is going to happen anytime soon. I don't. But I do believe that if we continue to work the way we do, as UJA, as human beings, as the global Jewish people, more people will benefit because they will be seen as human. Their voices will be heard. It's our turn right now to demand that, because the world is not giving that to us. The world is not honoring our grief, is not believing our pain, is not showing up in solidarity, with wonderful exceptions. So we have to demand that now. Not only the inner work of finding shalva, but saying, you should see me as human. I will accept nothing less. That is our first step, not our last, and there are many steps between. But if we are to one day walk together with our estranged cousins, we're going to have to do so as strong, absolutely fiercely, honoring and other honoring people. So let's take a breath, and I invite you to join with me. It was very different singing Hatikva in Israel. Sang it 3 times on these broadcasts, once in the airport in Israel and twice on a van, on the bus that we were traveling in. Let's believe in the possibility of shalom as we absolutely affirm the right of our people, liot am chofshi be'artzenu, to be a free people in our own land. Here we go. Kolon balevav pnima nefesh Yehudi homia ulfatei mizrach kadima ayin letzion Sophia. Od lo avda tikvateinu, hatikva bat shnot alpayim, liot am chofshi be'artzenu, eretz Zion v'Yerushalayim, liot am chofshi be'artzenu, eretz Zion v'Yerushalayim. Friends, take care. See you tomorrow.